Hey, this is Chris. I'm going to show you a couple quick things about Adobe Audition that I discussed in class. Okay, Audition has two modes, the edit mode and the multi-track mode. Now I'm going to show you how to get to the files in edit mode, which is where you want to begin. You'll want to start in edit mode so you can process your files. Here I'll open up a window that shows the files I've copied from the page. There might be a PK file in there. Ignore that. You just want to work with WAV files. File extensions are very important. Don't be brainwashed by the Mac Apple thing. You always have to have a file extension, and you always want to be able to see them. You cannot trust in this day and age file associations with applications. It just we no longer live in that golden age. Okay, so we're here loading up the files. They're easily viewable in the file pane window. To work on a file, you simply take the cursor and swipe one direction or another, and you'll see the portion of the wave you've highlighted. So the three effects we discussed in class: pitch shifting, parametric equalization, and then reverberation. I'm not going to go through each of those. You can check the notes or either in the email or from the class. Here's one. I just want to show you how we engage and commit to a process. So here we have reverb. I like to boost the wet mix. Instead of just hitting OK, I want to preview what I'm about to do. So I make sure the green power light is on, and then I press play. And then we'll hear, it'll calculate a little bit, and I get to decide and perhaps alter some of the parameters. Now I've altered, I've committed to making this change, so what I do then is I just don't save. Every time you change a file, you save as, and here's how you do it. You go to File, Save As, and you'll want to preserve the original file name and then add to it. So at the end of the file, add an underscore character plus the number, if it's the first time you're processing the file, the second time another underscore, and then remind yourself what you did. So if I end up processing this file again, which I might do, here's what I'll do is, let's just say I want to only keep this part of the file. I can go to Edit, Trim, and pow, there's only the part of the file I selected. I'm going to process it again, this time pitch shifting. Whoops, I accidentally selected stretch. But let's see, pitch shifter, and then let's drop it an octave, 12 semitones, high precision. I don't need to preview it, I've got a sense of what it's going to sound like. And then it'll drop it an octave. I encourage you to take all of these effects processes, at least the three we discussed in class, and apply them multiple times. That way you can really get to know not only what the sound is and what's happened to the sound, but what the process is doing to the sound. It's a form of exploration. So now the sound has been again processed. I want to save as, and this time I'm going to have the underscore 02. Drop 12, and I use ST as abbreviation for semitones, or drop, and we can use a little bit of musical terminology there. Okay. So now you want to manipulate. Now you want to manipulate files together. You've processed a bunch of files, so you need to go to the multi-track mode. Now to add files to the multi-track window is actually very easy. Because you've already opened files in edit mode, they'll appear in the Files pane, and you can drag and drop. Hold down the left mouse button on top of the file name and drag. Hold down the left mouse button over the title and drag. Now look what I just did. I covered one file with another. You don't want to do that. You want to have a graphic representation of all of your files. So to move files inside the multi-track window, I right-click on top of the file, hold it down, drag it down like so. I can use these zoom controls to change the view a little bit. To move these files around, again, hold down the right mouse button on top of the file and move it. You'll want to make sure that your cursor looks like a pointer and not necessarily like a T-bar. So make sure you have this cursor selected. So you want to change the relative volume, because you'll find if you play all of them at the same time, you'll get a loud, screaming mess. So say this tank gun, you actually want to have it very quiet. So you look for the green line that is on top of every file. You go to the end and lower it. You go to the other end and lower it. And you've lowered the volume. And in fact, you can create your own fade in, which is what I like to do. You can use these gray squares to create fade ins yourself. It does it quick and dirty, but I'm of the old school. I like to make each one by hand. That's part of the fun. So you grab the points, and to create a point, you just click. Notice the cursor pointer with the plus. You can even create little spikes. So this adjusts the volume, and as the line goes up, the volume goes up. As it goes down, it decreases. In fact, you'll even can hold the mouse pointer at each point, and it'll tell you how much you've reduced the volume. Now to look at this a little bit closer, because we also want to move the sound in the stereo field from left to right. So there you'll want to look at the blue line that bisects the file. Remember, this is a stereo file. Here's the left channel. Here's the right channel. I want to actually pan the file from left to right, have it maybe rocket across the stereo spectrum, as we like to say. So by moving these points and moving that point, I just moved all the way to the top. This is the left, so the sound will begin in the left channel exclusively because it's 100%, and then kapow, race across, and then finish in the right channel. So now you want to create a mix down. Here's what you do. I like to zoom out full, both axes. Make sure I can see all of the waveforms. I hit Command or Control A to select all of the waveforms. Move the cursor on top of any selected waveform. They should all be selected, so it shouldn't be too tough. Right click once, don't hold it down. Right click once, don't hold it down. Look for Mix Down to New File. Master Output in Session. It's going to take a few minutes to mix this down. So what will happen, in fact I'll cancel so we don't have to sit waiting through for the entire time, but what will happen is in the edit window you'll see a file that will just suddenly appear. Audition automatically, just as it did here, takes you to the edit window. It creates the file called Mixdown, which of course you'll want to rename. So here you should do two steps. Save as, and instead of saving a WAV file, we're just saving a reference mix, so this does not need to be hi-fi. Select MP3 from the Save As type, and let's give it a name. Mixdown is a useless name, so we call it atmospheres _ whatever your name is. Let's say it's George Blunt, MP3, and then we save. Make sure that you keep all of your audio files and session files in the same folder. To save the session file, go back to the multi-track window. I like to keep them all in one file for just a small project. For a bigger project, of course, you don't want to do that. But to save your session, make sure you go to File, Save Session. It'll prompt you for a name, and you'll want to pick something that's, call it Session 1, maybe with your name, and make sure it's in the appropriate folder. The file extension will be XML. You might, if you're using the more recent version of Audition, you'll be prompted when you begin to actually save the session and give it a file name. This is a new Pro Tools type of thing that Adobe is doing. Personally, I hate it. I don't like to be nagged. Sometimes I just want to discard a session because it stinks. I shouldn't have to save everything. But, oh well, there it goes. Okay, so that's a general guide to the project. Email me if you have questions. I hope this helps.